Hey guys, Ian here from the Gamers Gaiden. If you've been watching any of the recent episodes, you have probably heard me talk about this a few times. So I figured it was probably about time to sit down and actually do a bit of a review on Death Stranding because I finished it now and I'm super pumped about it still. So for those who don't know, Death Stranding, new game on the PS4, came out in November. Um, Created by Hideo Kojima, the gentleman behind the Metal Gear series, as well as Snatcher on Sega CD. A very, very interesting individual. Um, yeah, this game was amazing. Every element. Now, I will say I don't want to get too spoilery in this because, spoiler alert, I would really like everybody to play this game. Um, and play it soon. I don't think this is one you should wait on, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But yeah, so let's get into it a little bit. You play as Sam Porter Bridges, who is a delivery man, and or porter, and you deliver packages. That's the basic gameplay loop here. You are delivering packages from point A to point B. Sometimes you're going to have to go to a place and find some cargo and then take it somewhere. But a lot of times you're loading up at point A and delivering it to point B. So, yeah. Um, it still has a lot of similarities to some of Kojima's past games. Like a lot of the ways that the systems work, a lot of the ways that they show items, the combat and stealth sections do remind me quite a bit of playing the previous Metal Gear games. So you can really see the influences from his previous work on his current work. Uh, yeah, so the game is broken up into a bunch of different chapters. The story is really unfolded for you in such a wonderful way. You know, it has a lot of tense moments, but they're always followed by this like real sense of relief, and the way that the game will pull the camera back after you've been through a really challenging section, kind of show you this like beautiful scene. And usually, they'll kick in a song. There was a lot of music by some well-known artists. Church has had a song on here, as well as there's Major Lazer, Neighborhood. But primarily, the soundtrack was made up by an Icelandic band that I hadn't heard of called Low Roar. And yeah, the music was amazing. It was um, so perfect for every scene. Every time they pulled that camera back after a really tense moment, whether it had been running away from the human opponents or the BTs, the ghost like enemies. Um, yeah, they really just like it was a nice calming moment. You could kind of just relax. You realize the game's telling you that like almost at your destination. The challenging part is over. It was just a really, really nice way to handle this. Um, an interesting thing that I did find was every chapter is closed out with a boss fight, which I don't know. I feel like a lot of the things that I've played recently haven't necessarily had boss fights as a closeout to each chapter. A lot of a lot of the things that I've played, you might have the occasional boss fight here and there, or it might kind of culminate into one final big thing. But yeah, this every chapter. Now, I mean that's not really spoilery. Like I said, I'm not going to get too into the weeds about the game's story and how things go that way, because I do want people to play this, and I don't want someone to hear me say something and be like, "Oh, okay, well, I know how that ends," so I don't want to. I don't want to commit the time. It took me about 40 hours to complete all of the chapters. Now, minor spoiler: when you do finish, it does let you continue on and complete any of the secondary and side quest kind of stuff that you hadn't maybe had a chance to earlier in the game. So that is kind of a bonus. And for me, I think one of the most interesting aspects when I went back to grab footage for this video, which obviously we do, I said to myself, I'm like, okay, this is gonna take me maybe 30 minutes. I will jump in. I know where I can find some of the BTs, so I can do the stealth elements. I know where I can find some of the human enemies, so I can show some of the combat, and maybe I'll show a little bit of the building. And as I got in, I was on my way to one of those sections, and they have these auto pavers that will pave a section of road for you if you put the appropriate amount of materials into them. And I noticed that one of them was really close to completion. So I have the resources for this. I'm just gonna, I'll scoot back to one of the distribution centers or hubs, and come back and I'll complete this road. So I complete that, or I have that in my mind. When I get back to get the materials, I kind of forgot. I forgot exactly what I needed, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a whole bunch because I can complete that section of road, and then I'll follow it to the next section where the next auto paver is, and I'll just dump whatever excess materials I have in there. So I did that. Completed the first section, went over to the next one. I had almost enough material. I basically ended up in this loop where I just was kind of, oh, you know what? I'm just going to scoot back. I'm going to grab a little bit more material. I'm going to come back and complete this section, and then I'll continue on. And I kept having this excess and this drive to complete this road because I knew that would impact the game for so many other people. So the really interesting element about this is that you're going into these areas where you don't have anything, these barren landscapes. The terrain changes, they have some deserty sections, they've got some grassy and mountainous, like snow-covered areas. But everything's at like bare. There's nothing. There's nothing except what you put into the environment at first. You're given, this is not a spoiler, you're given something early on in the game to basically bring internet to these isolated like cities and distribution centers. And once you bring that area online, and if you're playing online, if you're playing offline, you'll have a very different experience, and I think you might be playing this game wrong. Just my opinion. Anyways, once you bring that online, you can now see any of the things that other players on your server have done. And it changes the game in such a drastic manner. Because you can see all this stuff. You can see the paths that people have taken. Sections of grass will actually get trampled down from use. You can see that, oh, okay, that's the path that people primarily take. In snow-covered areas, the snow gets worn down. You'll actually have little pathways that you can follow if you want to. You can see that that's the most common way, that most people have gone this way. And to me, that was the magic behind this game. Um, every time you interacted with something another player had put into the environment. Now, whether that's a bridge, because you could build bridges, even just a simple ladder, which could be used either as a bridge or to climb up a cliff face. At any time, any of the things that you would interact with that someone else had placed in the environment, you could hit the little like center button on like the touchpad on the controller and give that player a like. I know that sounds crazy, but you would see those likes. You would see the likes that you got from people. And I when I moved into the I think the second major area of the game and I encountered a road for the first time, I realized super early how important that section was and how much that changed the game for me. So all the way back to me going like turning it on to grab some extra footage, I spent 2 hours just building road. That was it. I kept getting materials and building these sections of road, and I completed that road because I know how much of a difference that's going to make to other people. And I know that sounds crazy, but this game just really connects you. Yeah, like that was your interaction with these other people. But it was weird because these things that other people put into the game in a lot of cases meant way more to me than anything else that I ever noticed. I think the best example was, now this does get a little bit into the weeds. Um, Anytime you build a structure, you're able to customize it. You'll unlock these various like holographic images or songs that you can have play when people get within proximity of it. And yeah, there was one that had a long neck from Horizon Zero Dawn, the giant dinosaur thingies, and yeah, it was huge. It was huge in the environment. It You would see it way above everything else. So once you got into proximity of this thing, it would pop up. And it was in a very rocky area that didn't really have a good solid pathway through it. Even after playing it multiple times, getting and having the area on the network, there wasn't things that people could put down to make it an easy path. So it was always challenging to navigate. But as soon as I got into range of, it was a charging station actually, to charge the vehicles, I would see it. It would pop up, and that was like, there were so many times coming from one side of the map to the other where I would see that point and it would just be like, oh, okay, I'm almost there. And I would head straight to that because I knew that once I got there, it would take me to the river, and then I could just follow the river back to kind of the next checkpoint. And yeah, like that's a memory I have of that game, of something that was incredibly important to me, but will have no point of reference in anybody else's game unless they happen to be playing on my server. So I really think that that's what makes this game magical. I love how I know it sounded so cryptic when Kojima was explaining that like strands can be so many things. Like you can be stranded on an island, but like you could bring together strands of thread to make rope. I know it all sounds so crazy, but yeah, like you're connecting these isolated people. Me being isolated playing a single player game on a console by myself. But I was connected with everybody that was on that server through all of the various things that either I put into the environment that helped other players or that they had put in that helped me. So, yeah. Like I said, I think you should play this, and I think you should play it soon. They do have a built-in mechanic that does degrade materials over time. So things like the ladders and bridges, the vehicles, all of which I have seen corrode to the point where they're not usable. And I haven't seen a road breakdown yet, but I think they take quite a bit more time. They do take quite a bit of material to create, so that could be why. Yeah, I think in a year, this is going to be a very different game. You won't have the community there behind you, helping you through. Which might sound like a crutch. It might sound like you're making this way more easy than it needs to be. And I don't think so. I still had challenging sections. There was a whole part through about 2/3 of the way through the game where I almost put it down. I failed a mission 4 or 5 times, and I was just like, I cannot do this. I don't know what I can do differently. And I walked away, and then I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, well, why don't I just take a different path? Like, why don't I just try going way around? Because the map's open. There's no reason why I couldn't. And there was no reason why I couldn't. I avoided the section that I was having so much trouble with. I found a section that, yeah, like terrain-wise, it was a little bit more challenging, but it didn't have some of the other elements incorporated. So, yeah, got myself through with very little issue. It just took me maybe half an hour instead of the 15 minutes that it would have taken me the other way. So, this game, like, it lets you think outside the box. I don't know how many times I, like, mountain goated my way through something with a truck that shouldn't have been going through there, but did, because I persisted, and that's what I wanted to do. So I kept finding different ways to keep getting that truck higher and higher and higher. And yeah. I mean, if you fall off something ridiculous, it will explode, and your body and cargo will get thrown everywhere, but risk you have to take. So, Death Stranding, my game of the year. I do not regret that choice, even a little bit. It probably is going to be high up on my list for a long, long time. And, yeah, if you've played it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you haven't, go play it. Then let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.